Welcome to our deep dive into Genesis 2,
Yeah?
where we'll be unpacking the creation narrative, the Garden of Eden, all the juicy details in between. And this time we're not just looking at the what, but exploring the why.
Right.
What does this ancient text tell us about humanity, our purpose, our relationship with God and the world?
What's so captivating about Genesis 2 is that it takes this more intimate approach
Yeah.
compared to the cosmic scale of Genesis 1. It's less about the mechanics of creation
Right.
and more about exploring the essence of what it means to be human.
All right, so let's get into it. Genesis 2 kicks off a little differently than you might expect. We don't immediately jump into the creation of Adam.
Right.
Instead, we start with a day of rest, the seventh day.
Yeah.
It seems a bit out of order, doesn't it?
You're right. It's not the typical way you'd start a creation story. But think about it. Even before humans enter the picture, there's this divine rhythm of work and rest being established. God sanctifies the seventh day, setting a precedent that echoes throughout history and into our own lives.
So it's not just about God taking a break.
Right.
You're saying this rest is fundamentally woven into the fabric of creation.
Exactly. It's like saying, hey, even in perfection,
Yeah.
there's a time for action and a time for stillness. It suggests that rest isn't just an afterthought,
Okay.
but an essential part of a balanced and fulfilling existence.
Now, that's a concept I can get behind. Okay, so then we finally get to the creation of Adam, formed from the dust of the ground, given the breath of life.
Right.
It's such a vivid and intimate image.
It really is. It portrays God as a sculptor,
Yeah.
meticulously crafting humanity with intention and care. And that breath of life,
Right.
it's almost like God sharing a piece of himself with Adam. It's a powerful symbol of the connection between the creator and the created.
And then, of course, there's the Garden of Eden. Not just a garden, though. It's
Yeah.
described as this opulent paradise overflowing with delicious fruit trees, a river that nourishes the entire land, and get this gold bdellium onyx.
It's not just about sustenance, is it?
Right.
It's about abundance and beauty,
Yeah.
resources of both practical value and aesthetic splendor. The text specifically mentions trees pleasant to the sight and good for food.
Oh, wow.
It's almost as if Eden is designed to appeal to all the senses,
Yeah.
a place where humans can truly thrive.
Okay, I'm starting to get a bit envious of Adam here.
Yeah.
But wait, there's a catch, isn't there? That one very specific tree,
Right.
the tree of knowledge of good and evil,
Yeah.
that's strictly off limits. If it's paradise, why even put it there in the first place?
Yeah.
Isn't that just asking for trouble?
That's where it gets fascinating. This seemingly simple restriction
Yeah.
introduces a whole new layer of complexity.
Yeah.
It introduces the concept of choice of free will.
Okay.
Without the possibility of choosing wrong, can there truly be freedom? It's a question that philosophers have grappled with for centuries.
So it's not about God setting Adam up to fail.
Right.
It's about giving him a real choice.
Right.
But wouldn't that imply God knew they would eventually eat the fruit?
Yeah.
That's a bit of a mind bender, isn't it?
It certainly raises some thought-provoking questions about the nature of free will and divine foreknowledge.
Yeah.
But for now, let's focus on what this commandment tells us about the human experience.
Okay, fair enough. So we have this perfect garden, this idyllic existence, but then there's this one rule that if broken has the potential to change everything. Talk about high stakes. But then again, maybe that's part of what makes the story so relatable.
Right.
We all face choices, big and small, that have consequences.
Absolutely. And speaking of choices and their consequences,
Yeah.
the creation of Eve is pivotal to understanding the dynamics that unfold in the garden.
Right. God realizes it's not good for man to be alone. Not bad, just not good.
Yeah.
There's a subtle but important distinction there, isn't there?
There is. It suggests that solitude has its place.
Yeah.
But true fulfillment comes from companionship, from connection.
Yeah.
And it's from Adam's rib that Eve is created.
Right.
Not from his head to rule over him, not from his feet to be subservient, but from his side as an equal partner.
Wow. That imagery is really striking. It's a powerful statement about the intended relationship between men and women, this idea of partnership and shared origin.
Yeah.
It really makes you rethink some traditional interpretations, doesn't it?
It certainly does. It challenges us to reconsider assumptions about gender roles and to see the creation of Eve as a step towards greater wholeness and balance within humanity.
Before we get to the consequences of their choice,
Yeah.
there's another interesting detail about Adam before Eve even enters the scene.
Okay.
Remember when Adam gets to name all the animals? I mean, can you imagine having that job?
Right.
I'd probably run out of good names by the time I got to the insects.
It might seem like a whimsical detail,
Yeah.
but it actually speaks to a deeper theme. Humanity's role as stewards of creation.
Oh.
Adam isn't just given dominion over the animals.
Right.
He's tasked with understanding them, appreciating their unique qualities.
So it's not just about having power over them. It's about responsibility.
Precisely. It suggests a relationship of caretaking, of recognizing the interconnectedness of all living things.
Yeah.
What does that mean for us today, inherited in this mantle of responsibility?
Yeah.
It's a question worth pondering,
Yeah.
especially given the environmental challenges we face.
Oh, no kidding. It's like we've been given this incredible garden,
Right.
and it's up to us to decide whether we'll nurture it or exploit it. Pretty heavy stuff. Okay, so I've got this idyllic garden.
Yeah.
Adam's got his naming skills down.
Right.
But something's about to change, right? Because Eve's arrival isn't just about companionship. It's also about introducing a new dynamic into this paradise.
You're right. And that dynamic, that tension between obedience and choice is at the heart of what happens next.
Okay.
Remember that forbidden fruit? Well, it's about to become very tempting indeed.
Oh.
But we'll delve into that in the next part of our deep dive. Welcome back to our deep dive into Genesis 2.
Yeah.
When we left off, we were talking about Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. This picture of perfection and abundance.
Right.
But with that one tantalizing rule hanging over their heads.
Right. That forbidden fruit from the tree of knowledge. It's almost like a ticking time bomb, isn't it?
Yeah.
You just know something's got to give.
Well, that's where the serpent enters the scene, often interpreted as a representation of Satan.
Right.
He approaches Eve with a very particular strategy. He doesn't outright lie about God's command.
Okay.
He's much more subtle than that.
Yeah, it's more like he's planting seeds of doubt, making Eve question God's motives.
Right.
Did God really say you couldn't eat from Edenlight tree?
Yeah.
It's classic manipulation playing on curiosity and desire.
Exactly. He twists God's words, suggesting that God is actually holding something back.
Right.
That this fruit holds some kind of secret knowledge that will make them like God. Who wouldn't be intrigued by that?
But it's almost like the first conspiracy theory.
Right.
And it works.
Yes.
Eve, enticed by the serpent's words and the allure of the forbidden, takes a bite and then shares it with Adam. Talk about a life-altering snack.
And that's the turning point.
Yeah.
The moment they eat the fruit, their eyes are opened and they realize they are naked.
Wow.
It's like a veil has been lifted and they see themselves and the world in a completely new light.
It's interesting, though, the text doesn't explicitly say that eating the fruit gave them knowledge of facts or information. It's more about this new awareness of their own vulnerability, wouldn't you say?
Precisely. It's not about intellectual knowledge, but a deeper, more existential understanding of themselves.
Okay.
This realization of their nakedness isn't just about physical exposure.
Right.
It's about a sudden awareness of their limitations, their mortality. They're exposed both literally and metaphorically.
And with that awareness comes shame, right?
Yeah.
That feeling of being exposed and inadequate. No wonder they try to cover themselves up with fig leaves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a powerful image of how sin or disobedience can lead to feelings of shame and separation.
Yeah.
They're no longer comfortable in their own skin.
Right.
And their relationship with each other also shifts.
It's like that first moment you realize you're not a kid anymore, that there are consequences for your actions.
Yeah.
And speaking of consequences,
Right.
they don't exactly escape God's notice, do they?
No, they don't. When God calls out to them in the garden, they hide. Fear and guilt have entered the picture.
Yeah.
It's the beginning of that separation from God that becomes a central theme in the Bible.
And their responses, when God confronts them, are so telling. The woman you gave me, the serpent tricked me.
Right.
Classic blame shifting even back then.
It's a very human response, isn't it?
Right.
We see it all the time, even today. Avoiding responsibility, trying to deflect blame.
Yeah.
But the text makes it clear that they are both held accountable for their choices.
And those consequences are pretty harsh, to say the least. Banished from the Garden of Eden paradise, lost.
Right.
It feels almost like a cosmic eviction notice.
The loss of Eden represents a profound loss of innocence and harmony.
Wow.
It signifies the beginning of human toil and suffering, Adam will now have to work the ground for sustenance,
Okay.
and Eve will experience pain in childbirth.
It's like the whole world changed in that instant.
Yeah.
Their disobedience had a ripple effect not just on them, but on all of creation. Talk about consequences.
Yet even in this moment of judgment and punishment, there's a glimmer of hope.
Oh, okay.
Remember, God provides clothing for Adam and Eve,
Right.
demonstrating compassion, even in their fallen state.
That's a good point. It's
Yeah.
like, even though they messed up big time,
Yeah.
God's not given up on them.
Right.
It's a powerful reminder that even when we make mistakes, even when we stray,
Yeah.
there's still a possibility for grace and redemption. Second chances even for eating the forbidden fruit.
Absolutely. This sets the stage for the ongoing relationship between God and humanity.
Right.
A relationship marked by both accountability and grace. But we'll delve into that more deeply in the next part of our deep dive, where we'll explore the lasting implications of this story and what it all means for us today.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Genesis 2. We've journeyed from the creation of Adam and Eve to their fall from grace, and honestly, it's been a roller coaster of emotions, but it's not just a story, right? It's supposed to teach us something.
Exactly. And now it's time to connect these ancient narratives to our own lives. What timeless truths can we glean from this story? How can they inform our understanding of ourselves, our purpose, and our relationship with the divine?
Okay, so what does this all mean for us here and now? We're not living in the Garden of Eden. We have to wear clothes, and frankly, most days feel far from paradise. So how does Genesis 2 apply to our modern lives?
Well, think about this. The story starts with Adam being formed from the dust of the ground. It's not a literal description. It's a powerful symbol of our inherent connection to the natural world.
We are part of nature, not separate from it. It's easy to forget that sometimes, especially when we're surrounded by concrete and technology.
And that connection comes with responsibilities. Remember Adam naming the animals? It wasn't just a cute activity. It was about recognizing the unique value of each creature and understanding our role as caretakers of creation.
So it's not just about enjoying the beauty of nature, it's about taking responsibility for it. Okay, that definitely hits home in our current world with all the environmental challenges we face.
Absolutely. It's a call to action, to be mindful of our impact on the planet and to work towards a more sustainable future. Now, another key takeaway from Genesis 2 is this idea of choice and consequence. Adam and Eve's story isn't just a cautionary tale. It's a reminder that our choices have ripple effects.
Sometimes it feels like our choices don't really matter, but this story suggests otherwise. It's like that butterfly effect thing, right? Even small actions can have big, unforeseen consequences.
Exactly. We're not isolated individuals. We're part of a larger web of interconnectedness. Our actions, big and small, impact others and shape the world around us. So we have a responsibility to choose wisely.
But it's not just about avoiding negative consequences, is it? Genesis 2 also seems to suggest that we're created for a purpose, that our lives have meaning beyond just getting by.
You're right. Think about Adam tending the garden. It wasn't just busy work. It was about cultivating and caring for creation, contributing to something larger than himself. It's an invitation to discover our unique gifts and talents and use them to make a positive impact.
So it's about finding that thing that lights us up, that thing we're good at, and use it to make the world a better place. Now that's a purpose I can get behind.
And finally, there's a powerful message of hope woven throughout this story. Even though Adam and Eve messed up big time, God didn't abandon them. He provided clothing a way for them to move forward, even in their fallen state.
It's a reminder that we're not defined by our mistakes, that even when we stray, there's always a path back to wholeness and forgiveness, second chances even for eating the forbidden fruit.
Exactly. Genesis 2 ultimately points towards a God who loves us unconditionally and offers us grace even in our imperfections. So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this thought. If the Garden of Eden represents a state of innocence and harmony, what can we learn from it today in a world that often feels far from paradise?
That's a great question to ponder. How can we cultivate those qualities of connection, responsibility, and purpose in our own lives and communities? Food for thought, folks. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Genesis 2.
And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the mysteries of life.